We're rolling.
Nice. All right, what's up, guys? Welcome back to the Prism Jiujitsu podcast. We got Eiji with us as usual, and then we got our return guest, Mike.
Hello, hello.
So we actually did this podcast already, and we only recorded about 10 minutes of it. Sure.
I don't even know.
We did it, yeah. So we got about 15 minutes of it. It was a great 15 minutes, but we're gonna try again. So we have a few things we're gonna cover. We're gonna talk about goal setting in jiu-jitsu, like long and short-term goals, and how to kind of build your short-term goals in order to kind of navigate your way to your long-term goals. And we're gonna talk about some overcoming plateaus. Something that everybody has to deal with. You know, you go through stages where you don't feel like you're improving, or maybe you're even taking a step back. We're going to talk about that. We also had it written down to get into some strength training stuff, but last time we didn't get to. So we'll see how this one goes.
We were thinking about doing a whole show just on that.
Yeah, we definitely will. So if we have time, we may touch on it. If we run out of things to talk about on the first two, but I think we'll probably fill the whole thing up. All right, cool. So goals. How do you want to get this started?
Well,
so go ahead.
I was kind of interested in how you set your goals, and since you're, the epitome, you're where we want to get to.
Yeah, you are the top of that pyramid. Yeah,
within the school. Yeah.
And so, I kind of want to hear your journey of how you utilized goals and setting them in little like milestones or short term and long term.
Yeah. So my long term goal that I'd set actually didn't have anything to do. Well, I had set a long term goal of just like being a world champion, and at the time it was MMA when I first set the goal, and that's where my goals were kind of geared towards. And I think, so that's actually one thing we talked about last time, and I think it's important to talk about is it's not bad necessarily, or like you can set a goal to say like, I want to get to a certain belt or win a certain thing by, it's good to have something to strive for, but what I recommend for everyone to do is like, when you start to set your goals, you set them, they need to be things that are entirely within your control, because the thing with goals is that as you reach them, it kind of creates, and when things go outside of your control, for example, like if someone wants to fight and they're like, I want to be like in the UFC by this date, so many things could happen, injuries, COVID, maybe you don't have the right management, and it takes some time to get that, things like that. But to be able to say like, I have the ability to like compete at this level, so like maybe like when I'm in the gym, when I'm sparring, I can hang with the guys that are in that level. Or if your goal is like, I want to be a black belt, you may have an asshole instructor that doesn't like you, maybe you have a huge school, you get overlooked, whatever it is. It's hard to say like, I want to get my black belt, because that's not at all in your control. So but what is in your control is to say like, when I roll with black belts, like I want to have that skill level, like I can hang with them, and so that's entirely something that you can set, and then it should be, if you're at the right school, it should be that if you're hanging with black belts, then you should be getting those promotions, but sometimes you don't, so setting a goal that's like entirely within your control, and then when you then you need to like start with your long-term one, and then like work backwards from there. So set like something in the midterm, right? So like if people in the middle range would be purple belt or something along those lines. I want to win some tournaments in this area. Now tournaments are different than like making it to the UFC, because anyone can enter into a tournament. So if I'm winning at this, that's my middle term goal. It was, and this will kind of roll over into like plateaus, because short term, you can say like, whatever it is, you can dissect your game, be like, I'm much better on top than I am at the bottom, or when I'm on the bottom, I'm not very good at half guard, but I'm pretty good at this guard. You take like whatever position you don't get solid results from, and say like, okay, I need to get 3 sweeps from half guard, only from half guard, and by this date, and make them to push yourself, but make them reachable as well. You know,
achieving that goal would look like your ability to sweep most people during the rolls after class or during class.
So here's what I would do, because you may be able to sweep like the guy that's on his free trial, doesn't necessarily count because he doesn't know what's going on. So what I would do is, like say my instructor was teaching butterfly guard, so I'd be like, okay, I want to hit 3 butterfly sweeps on 2 weeks, you know,
In live rolls.
in live rolls only, yeah. And then if I did that, then I'd be like, okay, I need to hit 3 butterfly sweeps on someone that is a higher rank than me, in, you know, maybe in the next month, because that's obviously more challenging. And then when I felt like, okay, I'm pretty like competent with anyone like near my range, it wouldn't be a realistic goal to be like, I'm gonna butter black belts when you're trying to get your blue belt, you know what I mean? So that would not be, but so if I was a white belt, I'd be like, I'm gonna butterfly sweep 3 blue belts,
Right.
you know? And I don't care how the rest of the roll goes, because when you're doing those things, like the rest of the, you know, like a specific position, so I don't, that's the only thing I care about is I'm working on getting the butterfly guard and then getting the sweeps from there.
Yeah, we talked about this in class the other day, right? Who gives a shit if you get tapped when you're in class, right? You didn't come in with that goal. You came with a goal of, I want to get better in this place that I'm not good.
Yeah, and that could be a spot. Interesting. So you're 100% right, but also, who's the amateur?
That's probably me.
Also, because mine's louder.
So that could be a goal, like right, like you can set a goal, like, you know what, I'm really good at scoring points, but I would like to be a better finisher, and so that's not. But I do need to like get better at getting taps, you know.
Right.
And yeah, so that's the way you short-term goals. So what I used to do that I wasn't my idea. I think I think this is where I got it from, and it would be like, if I want to insert long-term goals, then I need to insert a short-term goal. I had one in my bathroom mirror, one in my bedroom, like door when I would leave, so I could see them as I was going to class and things like that. So I'd put like, if I want to be a world champion, then I need to like successfully enter into X guard 3 times or whatever it was, and then I'd sign it. And it was really helpful because it gives you like 2 things. It gives you like purpose, like in your training. You're training with like intent, which is really huge, as opposed to just it depends on what your goals are. So if your goal is to be really good, then you need to train with intent, you know. And it gives you that, but it also gives you tangible like improvement, you know what I mean? So like, you know, like so I could go into tournaments, like when I would bump up a level, like you know, bump a bracket, I could look back and be like, yeah, but I remember when I was doing that, I couldn't do any of this shit.
We have some benchmarks.
Right, yeah.
Eiji and I were actually just talking, I think it was last week, the week before, because he's got a tournament coming up that he's to be working towards, and I kind of was like, hey, I want to jump on that bandwagon, maybe I'll do it too, and I've got like a big thing. So
the big thing, your black belt test for Taekwondo or karate.
Karate. So I wasn't trying to bring that up, but Eiji was like, oh, like, hey, are you going to even have time to prepare if you're going to do that? And for me, like, the way that my brain is wired, having a specific, right? Otherwise, like, then I show up and maybe I'm lazy. And we have talked about, actually, it's really weird that one of the conversations we had recently is coming up in a podcast. Right? You were just giving me all of this exact advice recently.
Everybody deals with when they first learn, like, you know, intent, or it's just things that everyone needs. So I feel like these topics come up all the time, you know, for sure. It's not for you, I'll say this for people that are listening, it doesn't really apply to either of you guys, but sometimes you join jiu-jitsu like just to make friends, or like just to get healthy. Don't make goals with friends, that'd be weird. Don't be like, by March I'm gonna have 3 friends.
You could?
Yeah, I guess, yeah, sure.
I feel like that's going to make it hard.
I thought you were gonna say Napoleon Dynamite. I'm like, maybe he probably.
Vote for Pedro. I love that movie.
Yeah. But if you know, okay, like by that time I get to this month, like I don't need any rounds off. Like I can finish them all. Like if your goal is to get in shape.
Yeah.
Or poundage is not a good way to set goals, but like body fat is a good, you know, something like that. So you gotta say to your like why. Otherwise, they lose their. They don't do what they're supposed to do.
Yeah. I mean, even without a tournament, right? Like for me, after you would give me that advice, I came in and I was like, oh look, I'm going to work on submission. I think if I'm going to get a blue belt at some point, eventually, submission chains are going to be a necessary portion of that. And that black
Pretty
belt.
soon, hopefully.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, I think.
I need
There's
higher
some-
ranked opponents.
I'm a lower ranked opponent to you technically right now.
They're partners in class. They're not opponents.
All right. Training partners.
That's okay. When we get to train together again next time, Eiji, I'll smash.
I need more experienced enemies. I'm gonna turn the AC on really quick. I'm sweating my ass off. Okay, so where are we?
I'm working, like my particular specific goal right now is to be working on submission chains and triangles. Because they're
Nice.
areas where like for me, I struggle. And in the short term, those are the things. Like right now, I come into class and go, like Eiji and I get together.
That
I don't.
sounds romantic.
You can leave the ambiguity.
Dude, side story. There was this. So during COVID, I was making a bunch of a no arm triangle.
Oh.
So just like facing the nuts, basically. And in the thumbnail, so my wife was my demonstration partner. So like in the thumbnail, I didn't even put it together because when you're in jiu-jitsu, you're used to like it's very sexual positions being non-sexual,
100%.
Yeah. But I got all these comments of like these people like with a girl, and I was like, I thought it was like social justice warriors, like trying to say like you shouldn't be training with girls. You know what I mean? Like don't be beating up a girl. Basically, I'm like,
Oh.
and I'm like, dude, this is my wife. You know what I mean? Like, and like maybe 6 months later, like way later, like someone made a joke. I taught the move in here, and someone made a joke about it, and all of a sudden I was like,
Click.
oh shit! There's just like legs are at my face, and I'm just like.
All right, let's not do that, Mike.
Okay, yeah.
I promise nothing.
Arm in triangles only.
So we had talked, and so I had my head wrapped around it the opposite way, and I'm thinking your way is better. I had it focused. I want to be black belt in 6 years, which means I need to get my blue belt in less than a year, and I need to get purple by this time, and I need to get, and then I can break that down into like, what do I need to know?
Yeah.
What are the moves I need to know, and how many, break it down to like what do I need to learn each week, and then each week I can break it down into what are the specific things I need to do on a daily basis. So it's kind of the same, the end point is the same, but the way those end goals of that you don't exactly have control over, because it's the instructor, the professor that gives you the belt. 8 years and your instructor hasn't given you the belt, but you feel like you've deserved it, but you haven't reached your goal that you set. It could be could be hard to deal. You talk about it is you set proficiency goals, which means that you could be, you need to be proficient enough to be a blue belt by the be proficient in.
Right.
And so the breakdown is the same, but in my mind, right? Like,
yeah, it is. Yeah, and I think that's speaking generally to like most people, because I don't know their instructors, but like I think that I do a fairly good job at like keeping, especially the people that train regularly. I kind of know, but there are some schools that have like 600 people, and you could just get passed over. You know what I mean? So yeah, yeah. I mean, man, there's probably schools with. There's schools with more than that for sure. Yeah, I think it's a better way to go. And also you look into, there are some schools, I don't do this, I don't take this into account at all for adults, but there are some schools that are like, well, you're a really good brown, so I don't want you to like, I don't take any personality traits into account, but also if you're an asshole, probably I just
maybe take a little bit longer.
I'd probably just say like, stop being an asshole or don't train here. I wouldn't just like dangle take that into account for kids. Like if I mean, kids aren't assholes, but
Yeah, but I mean, you
also
look at
they are,
martial
but-
arts as like part of that thing that builds character for them.
Yeah, yeah. But
Yeah.
adults are who they are, so I'm not here to change anybody's personalities. Anyways, yeah, I think it's a better way to set yourself up for like to feel like accomplished,
Right.
And if it works out that you get the belt, which more than likely it will, like if you're like with a fair, like if you're hanging with the black belts, maybe tapping some black belts, like you should probably be getting a black belt, especially if you're competing. When you're competing, there's like no argument. Like if you're like in brown belt tournaments at majors, like if you win at nationals or worlds or whatever at brown belt, like obviously you need to be like it's time to move up. And it's like we talked about this last time, the one that got deleted. But I met a guy at an open mat, and I was rolling with him, and he had a purple rash guard on, so I knew he was
You
purple.
assume he's purple, yeah.
Yeah, so I got him, but it took me a while, and I was like, all right, you're not a purple belt. And then
Sandbagger.
at first he went like he thought I meant like you're not good enough. I was like, no, you're too good. Like you're not worlds this past year, so I didn't get my brown belt. I was like, God damn, dude.
That is the requirement. Holy shit.
But yeah, so kind of going in circles saying the same things. But yeah, that's the idea. And then you can get super detailed with like okay, I need to learn these moves. But I think that is different for everybody because when we test for blue belt, it's not show me this move, it's show me this many moves in this position, So like, and the reason for that is because nobody's game. I'm not gonna force. There are like really basic, like if you're testing for blue belt and you don't know how to do like a scissor sweep, then that's a day one move. Like pretty much everyone should have seen that, Maybe don't use it, but you should have seen it over the year or whatever, year and a half that it took. But other than that, everyone's different. So I a lot of times will not set it to like I show everyone like all the moves that I know, and then like all right, you
Work for the style of game that you want to play.
Yeah.
And then so with those goals, like what about a goal of like 6 times a year?
Yeah, I think that is I mean, it's for sure a good goal. I think if your goal is to get as good as possible, because the lessons you learn, if you are susceptible to a triangle, you may need to get caught in it 20, 30 times in class, and then you're like, oh, I seem to be getting caught in triangles less. If you get caught in a triangle like one time in a competition, so the example I give everybody is my first competition. I'd only been training for like a few weeks, and I didn't have any guidance, so I just like signed up for a competition. Double elimination, I spent probably a grand total between both matches, about 1.5 minutes on the mats. So I got triangled in the first one, and I got guillotined in the second one. To this day,
Traumatized PTSD.
Yeah. No one will.
You feel the chin strap, and suddenly it kicks into overdrive.
Dude, if you guillotine me or triangle me, I will give you what's worth of me.
That's a very specific number.
Okay.
All right.
That's another goal.
Yes. I said I was working on triangles. Now I'm also working on guillotines.
Guillotine Nick for 400.
I will, especially because it was my first one, and it was my only one that I invited my family. After that, I was like, nobody comes to watch me compete.
My family's never seen me compete in any of my martial arts stuff. I think I've probably been to, I don't know, maybe 5 or 6 competitions, and then they've never seen me compete.
Yeah.
For exactly that reason, I'm terrified that I am.
Yeah, my daughter loves coming to see.
Yeah.
She's like, she's like, I like watching you smash people.
So does that drive you a little more when you're there?
No.
It doesn't?
No.
For me, I feel like it would.
I don't even it doesn't change anything.
I think your daughter's like at a good age because she's old enough to understand we talked about this in the last tournament. Like especially being older now, like if I compete in masters, a lot of times the other competitors have their kids there, and if they're right around my age, they're like young. They're like, what the fuck? Like the reality is crushed, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So like she
The world is broken.
I had a whole family meat bugging me when I so I took it was the first time I'd ever competed. And like it started off really well, right? Like I was an orange belt, competed in MMA, which was all striking because I knew jack all. I had just lost my jiu-jitsu round in no-gi, which I basically didn't train.
What
So
is MMA? Takedowns allowed, basically?
Takedowns and jiu-jitsu allowed.
Oh, really?
Yeah, but like the striking is all moderated, right? So like knockout would be a disqualification.
Oh, okay.
Just like the videos that were all viral of the dude winning the competition
Winning
at
the
the Olympics and then
Olympics,
getting disqualified. But if you win by submission, right, that's a win. And
Okay.
so again, I didn't go to the floor because I was terrified of it. Beat this dude, felt really great. I wasn't wearing a belt, so he couldn't see that I was an orange belt, and I couldn't see that he was a 3rd-degree black belt.
Nice.
Yeah, right. So like competition portion that's with people that are my own age, and because that kid was like 25 or something, he'd been training his whole life, and I go against these other like white, yellow, and orange belts, right? The first 3 belts. For people that are in my age bracket, it was me and this guy Rusty. I remember after we had I didn't know how hard the competitions would go for continuous. Like it's supposed to be really limited, but like he knocked the wind out of me with one of the first strikes, and so like I came back hard, and I could hear his kids screaming at me. 2 of his kids were there, and I'm like,
Stop hitting my dad!
yes, and I'm like, I'm the nicest guy, right? Like I don't want to hurt anybody, but this is what we signed up for,
Yeah.
you know. So like I just block it out, and then like I tried to come over and like greet his family afterward. They was pissed.
Was
He didn't
striking
take it
is
well.
striking? Wait, he was 25 and he had kids?
No. This kid, so like that was when I was competing in the like 30 and 40-year-olds because I was 34 when I started doing karate stuff.
Right, yeah. It's cool that so side note, it's cool that because I think that so I'm a brown belt in karate, but and for us at our system that was immediately before black.
Right.
So it came time for me to test for black, and they were like, it's like $500 to test, and I was relatively young and didn't give a shit about like I didn't think I'd ever want to look back and be like, oh, I have these accomplishments, you know. So I was like, yeah, fuck you guys. Jiu-jitsu over everything.
$500 to test.
But I'm jiu-jitsu, so started with karate, then did jiu-jitsu, then I was like, I'm gonna do MMA. I didn't have any striking, like my karate skills didn't carry over at all because probably the whole time that I did karate, like we probably sparred, you know what I mean? So I think that's why I think like in the MMA, so originally in MMA karate got like a bad rap, and then now there are some karate guys like Raymond Daniels and things like that.
Cop.
Yeah. They're like the torchbearers or whatever for karate, and I think that's the issue is that like in the 90s, like karate became so big, and you see it people trying to do with jiu-jitsu now, like make this work. How do we make this more money?
Yes,
and the
it
answer
becomes
was
business
like
instead of
nobody gets punched in the face or punched at all. Like if you can do the forms, then you get a black belt. And I see this side because you want someone to get started, but that's not really a black belt. Like if you can do the forms but you can't fight, that's not, in my opinion.
Yeah,
you know what I mean. Like, so I'm like I kind of wonder, this guy like. I wonder what kind of school he came from. You know what I
So
mean?
it's actually a pretty tough school. I competed against one of his other 3rd-degree black belts a year and a half later.
I'm not saying that to discredit like.
No, not at all. It's
yeah.
a fair point. I went when I competed in Vegas last year at that Worlds tournament.
Yeah.
I lost in my one MMA match against another guy from their school, and he and I were chatting about it afterward. Because, like I said, like super nice guy, love them. That whole school was like, dude, we hard spar like 3 times a week.
Oh really?
Yeah. Which is a lot more than I typically hard spar, right? Like usually it's with the younger guys, like in the adult classes for whatever. It depends. Like like when you're 45 or whatever, like we have to go to work tomorrow.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah,
like
yeah.
you don't want to like knock someone's head off.
Yeah.
Same deal for me. Like I'm not trying to show up to work with a black eye if I can avoid it.
Is your sparring face contact?
No.
Oh okay. Yeah.
In that MMA round, my mouth is all bloody and it was
Nice.
the whole thing.
Hell yeah.
I was smiling too much though.
I mean, I get black eyes in here.
Yeah. Yeah, I guess you kind of do.
Yeah.
Like that. It's what we do.
I think some people are like super susceptible to like Ian, for example. Like Ian will take his gi off and his just whole upper body is covered in bruises, and I'm like,
You might have been taking too much ibuprofen or something. I'm prone to it too. Usually mine are from like here across the collar and then to here.
Yeah.
It's super weird. My wife always makes fun of it.
I don't get bruises, man.
You've been doing this forever though. Your body's.
But I didn't get them either.
He's
like,
just
when I was
made
younger.
out
Really?
of
I
steel.
think it's genetic. I think it has to do with this like certain. I think it's genetics, like GSP, everyone would always make the argument when GSP would fight and he would like dominate, but his whole face would just be purple, you know, just like dude, like he's just that's
GSP's the man.
the super white man.
GSP's the man.
Yeah, yeah, he is. But anyways, let's get back on track.
So we could probably move on to plateaus.
Yeah,
Yes.
and we don't need to talk about this anymore. But like right out of the gate, the way that you beat plateaus is by having goals. Because yeah, right.
Yeah, end of the portion.
That's the biggest. That's the biggest thing. Because a lot sometimes, and it's like say you have one. Say you didn't get enough sleep, and you had like a bad class, you know, and that makes a huge difference. Not having enough sleep, like before jiu-jitsu, that's a huge difference. If you're over 30, and
If you're over 40.
well, I mean, like when I was like in my 20s, I didn't need to, you know, I just slept on the mats and then woke up. And then
You know, thank you.
Yeah. So so you have something happens, you have one bad class, and then you're like, fuck, and then the next day you're like, I really want to do better today. And then now you're not like flowing, you're not in your zone, and like you're overthinking. And then a lot of times those plateaus are just like this self-fulfilling prophecy of like you think you're in a plateau and therefore you're not doing as good. So when you have goals, and you can know they cancel that out a lot of times, you know. And you're not thinking so much about like, oh, I didn't win this round. You're just thinking like you're just worried about your move that you're trying to get better at, and so it helps, you know. But the other side is, and so this is what we talked about last time is usually when you feel like you're in a plateau, there's like someone that is less experienced than you, or maybe someone that you can normally beat even if they're not. With them, or like maybe they're beating you, and you're like, what the fuck, you know. And that kind of like starts to snowball, and then you start to force it and this and that. And so what I found, like in my like purple belt, just stopped trying to win. Like I would just come to class and be like, dude, I just love. So we talk about training with a purpose, but sometimes, and this would be one of those times, like I would just be like, okay, no more goals. You know what I mean? Like my goal today is to get tired and have fun. That's specifically my goal, you know. Mm-hmm. And I just go in and flow. I'm not thinking about points. I'm just getting back to like why I liked it, why I started in the beginning, and I'm just having a good time. The more that you are like not forcing it, the easier it is to do good. And maybe it doesn't like flip the switch right away. Mm-hmm. You spend a few days like just having fun, and that for me has always brought me out of the plateau. And then, so it's been a long time since I've been like maybe a month or so ago, like. I mean, there's not like this. So for people listening, like we're a relatively new school, so we have a heavy disproportionate amount of
like 80% white belts.
In the adults, so we've got like
probably more, huh?
Yeah, probably like 90% white belts. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. So it's not like I was never like getting beat by any of our white belts, but I expect to be like styling on white belts, you know what I mean? And then I'm like, damn, I only won that one by like a sweep, you know what I mean? I was like, what the fuck, you know? I was getting like really frustrated, you know. And then the more I'm doing it, and then there's pressure. Like, so this was my like journey that I had recently. It was like an insecurity of like, dude, especially because there's a business side to it, you know.
It was
like
that day that I almost.
So
that's the use later.
Okay. There's like a pressure where it's like, dude, I absolutely crushing. Then are people gonna be like, oh fuck, maybe I need to go get a different instructor or whatever, you know what I mean? Like, because I'm, you know, we're a new business, and I'm like, fuck, I gotta keep all these people here, you know, this and that, doing crazy ass shit, you know, and like doing like just crazy flashy moves, and then I start forcing it, you know. And then it had been so long since I had to think about this, and then I was like, you know what, like, I just need to like come in and have faith, and then just have fun and see what sweeps come my way, and just hang out and play, you know?
So, all right, even the beginning of this conversation today, right, we both were talking about, like, we tend to all put you on this pedestal, right, because you're a professor, corrected a little bit, right? You're just like that little humble portion pushed in, like, hey, pinnacle here.
Yeah.
Right, which I appreciate. You don't come through and be like, I'm the best, I'm the shit.
Yeah.
But does that put additional pressure on you to feel like the hopes and dreams?
Actually, interesting, like, no, because I think, because there's solid it's a solid fact, actually, solid statement to make that good practitioners do not necessarily equal good coaches, and you can be a great coach and like make gnarly world champions and maybe not be so great yourself, you know, because well under pressure or
just don't have the physicality.
Yeah, exactly. Maybe you're not like your reaction speed isn't great. You're not a fast thinker, but you have it in your head. So if you have the time to explain it, you know what to do. You know what I mean? Shitload of examples, but I mean, John Danaher would probably be the most immediate one.
He was the first one that came to mind for me.
Yeah, he never competed. Now I've heard he is really good on the mats, but he didn't do well. I mean, he never competed, so there's no like.
I wonder what the reason for that is.
I mean, he came in relatively old, and he had really gnarly. He had really gnarly physical like injuries from his rugby days. So like now I think now I don't even think he can couple of knee replacements.
Oh wow.
Yeah. I saw this video of
pristine compared to that.
Yeah. I saw this really awesome clip of them like training, and you know how we bow and assuming this is because of his injury, but it looked so boss because he didn't even stand up. Like he was just sitting on the ground, and everyone came up to him and he's like, thank you, like from sitting on his butt. I was like, damn, that's the ultimate like flex. Like I'm not even gonna get up for your ass. But another example is Freddie Roach, right? Arguably, I mean, quite possibly the best, one of the best boxing coaches ever. Pretty solid as a fighter, but not
world champion.
Yeah. Which, by the way, while we're talking about books, you gotta listen. It's even better, actually. It's one of the only few times I'm like, you should listen to it, not read it. But he has a book called Atlas, and fucking A, goddamn, it's amazing.
Okay.
Yeah, even the title gave me chills.
Yeah. But it's basically a story about his boxing and stuff, and then it's also like very practical martial arts knowledge and like wisdom. Not necessarily like technique, but like wisdom and like approaching your career and your journey.
Well, this like so heavy on psychology.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, not heavy. I would say like you've got it's like psychology, your jiu-jitsu level, and then like psychology and your jiu-jitsu practice are up here, and then your your strength and conditioning, fill the rest of it.
Yeah, I think that in comp one, and then the actual technique maybe a half a step below.
Wow.
And then the conditioning is important. Maybe like just one step under training, especially for competition. Because I can roll like in the gym, because there's a level of like efficiency. But in competition, and you're pushing it, and then you're immediately like when you start, your heart rate's already at 120 BPM. Just because of the nerves. So the condition like 6 times. So yeah, it's huge mental. I think it was Randy Couture that said. I don't necessarily know if this might be a little bit of an overstatement, but I think Randy Couture was saying training is 90% physical, is 90% mental, and 10% physical. I think that's an overstatement, but it's for sure important.
And then that psychology or your mindset will kind of prevent you or help you recognize where you're at, right? So that you can see that this plateau that you think you're in is just what you think it is. Not as bad as what you might be thinking at the moment. And then you can get clarity.
Yeah, and I don't think like I've gone into fights in one of those moments and then still do great in the fight. TJ Dillashaw told me like, so he's smaller than me, we used to train in the same room, and so I would talk to him a lot, and then he told me like his most famous fight is when he beat Henan Barao. He was like a underdog. Everyone thought Henan was untouchable, and he just like buzzsawed him. Have you guys ever seen that fight?
No.
Fuck, dude, you gotta watch. It's like the most. Did you say yes?
No,
oh, okay, you gotta watch it. So they fought twice, and they're both just. I think it was the first time. He was like, dude, that camp, like I felt the worst I've ever. Like the last sparring day, I just got like completely demolished. It was like my worst training ever, and that was probably his best fight of his whole life. And the fight was mental, and TJ's just a fucking competitor, And he's the guy that, like, so we talked about this last time in terms of like getting frustrated. We didn't cover this, and we talked about like getting upset. People, a lot of great champions are ultimate like just asshole perfectionists, you know. And TJ's very nice, he's friendly if you meet him off the mat, but on the mat he will tell you that he's not friendly. People, he's just a gnarly perfectionist. Like if he like gets swept once, he'll get fucking super upset. Like he'll fucking yell, like fuck, and you're just like.
He's that competitive with his training partners.
But anyway, so some people are perfectionists, some people are not, and that being a perfectionist, I think, probably leads to some more of those plateaus in training because you get frustrated with yourself. Mm-hmm. But when you go to compete, like those guys are just like, I'm gonna die. You know what I mean? Like,
dude, I've never been that kind of competitor. Like not as a kid, not as an adult. I always come in and I'm like super anxious and the anxiety gets the best of me every time I've competed in friggin' jiu-jitsu.
Yeah,
like my arms are so not to grip hard and you just can't not.
Yeah.
But then I read relatively, like this year I read Hickson Gracie's Breathe, like his
oh nice,
his what the hell is the word, autobiography, and I mean like he lived mentality like you either have to kill me, break my arms, or put me to sleep. There's no such thing as a tap.
Yeah.
I'm like I would lose against that kind of competitor.
Yeah, I did. I mean, but there are some people who are champions that are just like Chuck Liddell, John Jones. Like they used to always say the same thing. I wonder if John Jones got it from Chuck Liddell, but they used to always say this. They're like, "Oh, how do you feel for tomorrow?" He's like, "Well, I'm gonna go have fun and do my best." And you know, work for both of them.
Dominant,
yeah. So different things work for different people, and that's what's difficult about sports psychology is that there's no one answer. You know what I mean? It's like, well, you just have to go on your own journey. You got for sure. I was watching, I don't know if you saw, I don't know how much like Instagram or whatever you follow for in jiu-jitsu, but
I follow a bunch of stuff on Facebook. I don't have Instagram, like maybe a Sandbag Mike or something like that.
Oh yeah.
Stay away belt forever.
we could talk about the experience we had at jiu-jitsu.
Yeah, for sure. But really quick, I wanted to mention this. So. Oh, dude. Oh, Leandro Love.
Yes.
I definitely know his name. I just had to bring it
May
so
rest in peace.
Yeah. So maybe the greatest, definitely top 3 like gi competitor of all time. You know. Mm-hmm. And cool video of him on his journey to. So he's the only person to win the Copa Podia at 3 weight classes. He did lightweight, middleweight, and heavyweight. He won them all. Like so, they do them at different times. Mm. And they were doing a video of that year of him doing that journey, and they were talking about how he says like, dude, like there's like joint locks like don't exist to me. Like you'll have to tear my. Talking about it, he's in like a toe hold, and it's just like bent to his ass, like his toes to his ass, and he's just like with disdain. So yeah, that video is awesome if you want.
So did he just train that mobility and flexibility into his body?
I mean, I'm sure it's a huge help that he is flexible, but he would also just like. I mean
because I've also with the
like a straight ankle lock.
Yeah.
I think a lot of it, because in the gi, heel hooks are not allowed, so you're looking at straight ankle locks and toe holds.
Yeah, but Randy's, I'm still choose from the in-house with a straight ankle lock.
Yeah, but if you're about to win a black belt world championship, I'll fucking limp for a year. You know what I mean?
That'll break. You can break baseball bats.
Maybe a baseball bat is longer. It's pretty. They break it at the handle, and your shin is. It'd be difficult to break it in this direction. I don't think I've seen any shin breaks from straight ankle locks. Usually the foot breaks, and you don't need your feet that much in jiu-jitsu. And it's not like he's not defending. He's obviously fighting back against it, and so there's some resistance. I don't think I've seen a shin break, because your shin is so much shorter than a baseball bat, so there's so much less. It's like doing an armbar with the elbows out, like trying to break. It's just not a long enough lever, you know. Right. But I do want to. I need to get a baseball bat because I want to make one of those videos.
We'll get an aluminum one for you.
All right, well, we're running. Actually, no, we're out of time for Mike. You gotta go.
Yeah, I do.
Okay. you guys for being here. Thanks for listening, guys. If you want to subscribe to the podcast, right now we're only on YouTube, but actually pretty soon we're going to be on Spotify. On YouTube, if you want to follow me at Nick Angeloni 155 on pretty much everything. AG.
I'm AGSon_75 on Instagram.
Nice. So you changed, yeah.
JISAN.
Nice. How many people that I like if you come up in conversation, I get like EJ, AJ, like EG.
All the time.
Yeah. Oh, you're only on Facebook.
Yep.
So no one else has Facebook, so you
private.
can find
TBD.
He's a ghost.
Yeah, find him here. You're basically
I gotta figure out what my Instagram handle is gonna be and then start recording.
All right, guys. Thank you for listening. We're out.